Welcome back to another episode of DIY Golf Car Garage. Today we're working on our 2003 EZGO TXT 36 volt. What we'll be doing today is installing a Jake's long travel lift kit. Got it here, we're going to get it started over there. Now this particular lift kit will work on a 2001 and a half and up electric TXTs. So let's get the parts and let's get started. So what we're going to start today doing is disassembling the front end so we can get started putting the Jake's long travel kit in the car. Okay, one thing to keep in mind is when you're jacking this car up, we want to place the jack in the very center of the front axle. That way when you do lift it up, you won't have to worry about it tilting side to side. Also, when you get ready to put the jacks under each side, try to put them anywhere that the frame has a brace on the back side. That way it will actually catch the top of the jack, it won't slide back. Okay, let's get the jack in. Okay, we've got the front cover off. Now what we want to do is go ahead, we're going to take these shock bolts loose, well the shock nuts here at the top. We're going to take both of those loose, go ahead and take the brackets out here, and the next time you see me, we'll have the jack back underneath that front axle to add support because we're going to take the springs loose. Okay, let's get started again. Okay, at this particular point in time, right before we drop this front axle, what we want to do is disassemble the steering yoke here. Takes a 1/2 wrench. All we want to do is pull the nut out, well the bolt out, right here at the top of the yoke where it slides onto the steering column. Take that out, that should slide out. The next comes the springs. Okay. For this final portion of taking this front end out, it's typically a two-man job. Today I've got my friend Jared here. Jared, say hello.
Howdy, y'all.
What we're going to do is go ahead and disassemble this front end, take the nuts and bolts out of the frame, which are attached to the springs, lower everything down, and just roll it out. You ready, Jared?
I'm ready. Let's get to it.
Let's get started. Okay, let's grab this back one here first. Once you squeeze underneath there.
All right. I guess you want the small man first, huh?
There you go. Okay, we've got the 6 nuts and bolts out. The springs are loose, shocks are loose, steering is loose, everything's still in place. So all we got to do now is just lower and roll right out. Yes, it's that easy. Next, what we're going to do is get the Jake's front end and get started with it. Okay, now we've got that whole front end out, and we're going to start putting the Jake's sub-assembly frame underneath here. Now this is going to be the hardest part that you'll have to do on the whole front end on this car. We do have it supported with a jack. Now in the back it has 2 portions that go back and mount exactly where you took the springs out. There's 3 bolts per side. You'll use your existing bolts, nuts, and the spring plate. What we've done here is we've got the spring plates on, 1 bolt to each side just to hold it steady. Next we'll go back, install the remaining 4 bolts per side. Once we got all of them in, then we'll tighten everything down. Remember, on assembling this front end, leave everything loose till you're ready to mount it. Alright, let's go. So what we're going to do first is we're going to drill out these 2 holes. We're going to mount this brace, and then we're going to mark right in the very center where we need to drill another 3/8 hole. Okay, let me get started drilling. Okay, I've drilled out the 2 holes. We got the bolts in there. Now what you want to do is take a pen, pencil, Sharpie, mark the very center, and then go ahead and take this back off. Next, what you want to do is get you like a 1/16 drill bit. Run you a pilot hole in there first before you try running that big 3/8 drill bit in. Let's get started again. Okay, what we've done now is we've got the 3 holes drilled. We got the 3 bolts inside. Next, if you'll notice at the very bottom, you've got 4 other bolts. All these will be the same except the driver's side bottom bolt going through will be an Allen head bolt. All these bolts go from front to back. You put the nuts on the back, except for this one Allen head one. it will go from back to front. That's because in the future here, we'll be mounting our rack and pinion steering on the back side here, and we don't want the threads cutting into the boots. Alright, once you get it on, tighten everything down securely. Let's do that. Okay, we've got the bracket here. This is going to be called the upper shock bracket. What we're going to do is on this particular car, we want to go to a full 6-inch stride. We want it a little bit on the stiff side. So we're going to come down to the third hole, put the bolt through, lightly tighten the nut on the back side. Next, what we're going to do is get this real pretty shock. Now, you'll also notice that there's a spacer inside shaped like a cone. This cone is going to go up to the shock with the cone shape pointing towards the shock. What we'll do is get the longer bolt provided. It'll actually go through the bracket, through the shock, through the cone, through the bracket, and then let's put the nut on the back side. Since we're doing this, let's go ahead and do this side, and then we'll do the other side exactly like this. Okay, now that we've got the shocks mounted at the top and still loosely fitted, we're going to take the lower A-arm and mount them on each side. Now they do come marked, and it'll tell you which one is driver's side, which one is passenger side, which one is top and bottom. The easy way to remember it is always look for the curved, angled part goes to the front, and always check for your shock mounting tube will go on top. That way it cannot be put on incorrectly. Also, the swivels, they'll go straight up and they'll go right on each side of the shock and right in between the support. Now let's get these bolted on. I'm going to do this side and I'll do the other side. Okay, now that we got the lower A-arm assembled, still everything is just fitted together loosely. We've got these bushings that we're going to put on each side. Actually, they're more like spacers that we're going to put on each side of the shocks, and they'll actually fit in between the shock mounting tubes. Get the longer bolt, and we'll just push through the whole center. Once you get it mounted all the way through, just put the nut on it. That portion's done. Now, since we're already over here, we've got this here done, we're going to go ahead and mount the upper A-arm bolt. Once again, it will mount to the inside, just like the lower. And now we'll do the other side. Okay, next what we're going to do is install the spindle, and we're on the driver's side. What you got to have is this 6x1/2 inch bolt. You'll have 2 heim washers and 1 nut and the driver's side spindle. Now, I mentioned the heim washer. The heim washer is about 1/4 inch thick and it has a bevel to it. The smaller bevel will always goes towards the ball joint. So we're going to put it on first. The flat side, biggest side, going towards the head of the bolt through the ball joint. Next we'll put the spindle on. Push it through the entire thing. Next, the heim joint. Once again, the small portion going up and applying the nut. Driver's side done. Let's do the passenger side. Okay, now we're getting ready to put our steering section on. This is our rack and pinion steering. This is our steering extension. Okay, this part coming out here is splined. The bottom of the steering column is splined. Each side of this yoke is splined. Now, this is going to be put on. They did make this to where it is a lot easier to install. One of these is a larger diameter than the other, so you cannot mix it up. Another thing to watch out for, on the splines, there's an indentation on the steering portion so that this can slide down directly on it. and slide down easily. Now this portion here that slides on the steering column, you must remember to take the nut and bolt out first, otherwise it will not slide on the column. So once we get that removed, you lay this over, keeping it all attached, and then we'll slide it through this assembly back here in the back, and then mount it lightly or loosely to the frame itself. Once again, this is one of those jobs where it's a two-person job. So Jared, you ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Okay, grab hold of that. Okay, we're just about finished with the front end. Okay, next what we want to do is we're going to attach the tie rods to the spindles. Once we get that done, we're going to put the bolt to the upper yoke, and then we're going to tighten everything down because everything will have been assembled. Once everything's assembled, you can move it, tighten it, snug it down. We're good to go. So let's get going. We're almost done. Okay, in this part of the video, we've got to bring back the old front end assembly. We need this axle because we need these hubs to go on the Jake's long travel kit front end. Now, I have already disassembled this, but I put it back together so I can show you some tricks. Okay, first thing what you're going to need to do is remove the cap. This cap, you'll need a flathead screwdriver and a hammer. You'll have to go around the edge of it to pop it off. Once you get this off, inside you will find the castle nut. Going through that castle nut will be this cotter pin. Just unfold it, pull it straight out. Next you have the castle nut. It will be further down inside this hub. The best way to get that out that I have found is with a regular pair of needle nose. Open them wide, stick them between the holes, and then turn it. By doing this, you can get a good grip and just spin it. Okay, once you get that off, did I mention this is the dirtiest part of the whole build? Once you get that off, you'll then be able to slide the complete hub assembly right off, and you're done with that portion. Now, once we've got it off, before we get started on installing it on the new car, make sure you've got you some standard Molygraph grease. What we'll do with this being a type of bearings that has to be packed, we want to make sure that there's plenty in there. Just get your finger in there, which by the way, a nice set of rubber gloves will really help. And just pack these in here. Pack them in good. And keep the grease handy because on the new spindle, we want to put a light coat on it once we get it cleaned up and ready. This is Disassemble. I'm going to put this to the side and let's get started back with this front end. Now we're back to the front end assembly here. We've got the hubs cleaned up. We've got the bearings packed. It's ready to go. But we just, on the spindles, on these golf carts, when they get to you, they will have a slight surface rusting. What we want to do there is get that off. We don't want any rust on this golf cart. None that we can help. So what I've done here is got some Scotch-Brite. You can use Scotch-Brite, any type of abrasive, as long as it's not too abrasive, or you can use steel wool. What we want to do is just go over the end of the spindle where the hub bearings ride. We want that as smooth as we can possibly get it. So we'll get it, cut it down, and pretend you're cleaning off your favorite pair of boots. Okay, we've got that cleaned off real good. Now right before we slide our bearings on, it's time to get some of this great smelling grease and rub it up and down onto the spindle. This way we can ensure that the hubs slide on good. Once we get it coated very well, it's time to slide our hub assembly on. Yes, it's always that easy. Next comes our nut. time for the needle nose again. Now when tightening this, you want to get it real snug, but not too snug. And you always want to, while you're tightening, find the location of the hole for your cotter pin, because it will have to be installed. Next, what we'll do is put the cap on, tap it on, make sure it's good and secure, and then we'll do the same to the other side. Do it exactly like we did this side. Okay, we're reaching the most exciting part of this front end build. We're fixing to put our tires and wheels on. Now the tires we'll be using are these Predator tires. They're an all-terrain tire. They're 23 by 10.5 by 12s. What that means is when the tire fully expanded with air at the correct air pressure, they're going to be 23 inches tall, 10.5 inches wide at their widest part, with a 12-inch inside diameter. The wheels that we'll be using here are nitro black. They come with a 3 by 5 offset. 3 by 5 offset, what that means is on the back, from this outer edge to the mounting surface is 3 inches, and on the front, the outer edge to the mounting surface is 5. So there's your 3 by 5 offset. Now it's time to put the center caps on. This particular one has got 2 Allen head screws that actually hold it on. There's 2 holes pre-tapped already inside the wheel, and this has 3 decorative Allen head screws already on it. So what we'll do is we'll just, it comes supplied with us with an Allen wrench. We'll just put these in, tighten her up, and let's get these things on the front of the car. Okay, we're about to begin the lift on the rear portion of this 2003 EZGO TXT. Okay, what I've done so far is pre-assembled just a couple of pieces just to get us a little bit of a head, such as the center caps and the wheels. And on our, we're going to be putting heavy duty springs. So on the front I've already put 2 bushings and the collar on each one. Now, when you get, if you get a heavy duty leaf spring kit, you will get 8 bushings and 2 collars. That's because the rear portion of the spring gets the spacer that goes right down the center, or the collar, where the front portion just gets the bushing. The actual bolt that goes through the frame acts as the spacer. Okay, what we're fixing to do now is go and jack the back of the car up and place jack stands underneath the axle housing so we can get these tires off and get new springs on. Okay, underneath the car now I've got the rear axle housing supported by 2 jacks. Now because I've raised it up higher, I went ahead and allowed for the distance for when we put our new tires on. In doing that, what I did was come up with a little tip that we use in the field. With our jack, we set the tire that we took off on top of it so that we'll make up the difference. That way we can jack the car up higher. We'll have the distance of the tire, that thickness, to help us get this thing in the air. So what I'm going to do now is disassemble the shock from the bottom, leave the top on, then take our leaf springs loose. Okay, what we've done so far is we've taken the shock loose, got the bushings out of the way. Now we're going to take the complete leaf spring out, starting with the rear bolt nut, the U-bolts, and then we're going to drop the front. Then we'll get started putting the new leaf springs in. Okay, we finally got this rear leaf spring out. I'm not going to tell you it was easy, because it was not. The front bolt that holds this leaf spring onto the frame was very rusted, and it was in there very well. So if you'll notice when you get it out, if it's got a lot of rust or you have to beat on it in to get it out, we have to use this again. So I'm going to take it over there, clean it up, use a Scotch-Brite pad, make sure it's smooth once again, and probably use a little bit of grease, put it back on, get this thing to slide back into these new bushings a lot better. Okay, so far we've got the right side of the golf car, the shock loose at the bottom, and we got the spring completely out. Now it's time to do the driver's side. Okay, one thing we've got to do before we jack the car up here very far to get this lift underneath it is you got a brake cable coming under here. It's got a cotter pin and an E-clip that's holding it to the frame here. We got to get this off. So you'll need a screwdriver and a pair of pliers, and let's get this thing off. But do both sides. Okay, what we've done now is we've got the heavy duty leaf springs bolted on both sides. We set the risers on top of the axles, and we slowly lower the frame so that the center bolt that goes down through the heavy duty springs goes into the center hole of the riser. Okay, we did that on both sides. Now it comes for the top portion that goes down over the springs, making sure that the shock mount goes towards the inside. You just lay it right over the hole that's already in the spring. Take your bolts, run from the bottom up. Now we'll go do the same to the other side, and then we'll mount our shocks to the same plate. Okay, we've got all the springs tight, both sides. Now it's time to get the shocks. And just to let you know, on the hardware kit, can you believe I shorted myself one nut? That's right. The hardware kit that came with the lift kit was missing a nut. So instead of going through all the trouble of calling up, hey, you shorted me, I went down to the local hardware store, got me another nut, 17 cents. I'm back on the road, and it's only been 45 minutes. So let's get going. Let's put these shocks on. Hurry and get this thing on the road. We've got the shocks done. Now it's time to put the brake cables back on. And that'll be the last step, assembling the back end, other than putting the tires on. And like a typical build, anytime you get started doing something, especially on the older car, even a 2003 TXT like this, you're going to come up with other issues. On this one, we had a shock that had cross-threaded and it appeared to be leaking a little bit, so on the safe side, we went ahead and put a new shock on it. The brake cable, driver's side, had a big rip in it, and the pin in the back at the brake was all seized up, so we had to break all that apart. So once all that's done, we got a new brake cable, new shock. Now we're going to hook everything up, and hopefully nothing else will happen. Okay, we've got the brake cables hooked up on both sides. Got the cotter pins in, the C-clips. Now, on the passenger side, the way the brake cable runs, it will not make it that far. So right in the very center of the frame, there's a little L bracket that hangs down with an 11/32 bolt holding it up and holding that cable behind it. Remove that bolt, allow the cable to come down, and it will stretch out and it will make the length perfectly. So now all we got to do is jack this thing up a little bit more, put these big old tires on it, and we're done with the back end. Then we can get started with the meat of the car, the electrical system. So let's get some tires. Well, I hope today's episode on installing a Jake's Long Travel Lift Kit was helpful for you. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them in the comment section. If there's any other parts you'd like to see us change out or upgrade, also leave that in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe, and thanks once again for visiting DIY Golf Car Garage.